It actually handles pretty nice. It doesn't handle, of course, like a full-size 9mm. It's kind of snappy on the recoil, but pretty good. I'm really digging this one. Ryan Ham here, and what you see before you is the Smith & Wesson BodyGuard 380, also known as the BG 380, and it is a compact, pocket-sized concealed carry pistol in .380 automatic. And Smith & Wesson brought this out kind of later in the game. Originally it came with a laser pointer that was actually integral to the frame, which was a nice and innovative feature. This is essentially a Generation 2 gun. Let's back the camera up and take a look at the competitors here and put the BG 380 in some context. So with the camera backed up, you can see four pistols here. The Smith & Wesson BG 380, the Keltec P3AT, the Car Arms CW 380, and then we have the Ruger LCP, also in 380. These pistols were originally brought out as clones or competitors to, well, what was the original pocketable small caliber gun on the market, and that was the Keltec P32. You might also know that there are 9mm on the market. This 9mm happens to be a Car PM9, and I've had this for a while as well, but it is in a belt slide holster, Kydex, and the main reason that it's there is because it just does not fit into the pocket very well. So for a little more stopping power, if you've got the clothing to conceal it, go for a 9mm. The PM9 is an excellent choice. This one is fairly well used. The P3AT was the first to the market. It is lightweight and very thin. We'll go to the Ruger LCP, almost a direct copy, part for part. Not that the parts are interchangeable, but they have very similar parts on the inside. So much so that you might think the two guns were clones of each other. But why would Ruger copy the LCP? Well, Ruger's copied the 1911, Ruger has copied the AR-15. Essentially, they know a good design when they see one, so Ruger copied it. The Ruger LCP, I believe, is a better made gun. It feels a little better. It could have a little more grip in this area, but the thumb rest makes it very easy to control. And the next gun to look at is the Car CW380. Personally, I'm not too big on the gun. One advantage it does have over the other guns is it is a full 2 fingers, even on my fat hands, right out of the box, and you don't have to have a finger extension or anything. One thing I dislike about it is the sights. You can see the sights. You got the little bar and notch, and then you've got the front dot. But understand that most of the time when you're shooting the gun, you're not going to be aiming. If you are aiming, you might not be in as much danger as you think if you have the luxury of being able to aim. Most of these guns are just to pull out and point and pull the trigger. And I'll compare the sights on the Ruger, which are a very rudimentary notch and post. And again, if you could see those, you're probably doing something wrong. And here's the Keltec, from which the Ruger is derived. Notch and a post. And finally, the outstanding post and notch sights of the BodyGuard 380, which I would consider, of the guns, feature-wise, it has the most features. It's the heaviest, but it also has a manual safety. It has a takedown lever. It has a guarded magazine release. It's got a raised portion around it that kind of makes it harder to push accidentally. It does have the best feel. It's got mostly a full 2-finger grip, although I would prefer there be a little more oomph down there. It's got a marked magazine, and it does hold 6 rounds. Nice orange followers so you could see it. There's also a magazine that has an extended floor plate. The extended one is a little too long and the flush one is a little too short. And this finger groove right here, which I absolutely hate finger grooves, but that seems to fall in the wrong place for me. This gun has an excellent feel to it though. The grip angle is a little more vertical than I would like, so it seems to point a little bit lower for me. If this is one of your only pistols, should be no problem at all. You just learn where the gun points and you're good to go. So we've got the original Kel-Tec P380, which you see is, wow, a good deal shorter and slightly thinner. Actually, it's a lot when you feel it. In terms of length, we'll line the backs up here and you see that the length is almost identical. And the Ruger is just ever so slightly shorter. The length is identical too. One thing you'll notice is that the back of the bodyguard comes down a little bit farther. And then finally the car. One thing you'll notice about the car is the car appears taller. The car is by far the shortest. And that makes a big difference when you're trying to conceal the gun. The barrel length makes a huge difference, but the grip length being as long as it is makes the car a little less concealable than the LCP or the P380. But all of these guns can fit in a pocket fairly well. The car is only a single strike, and once you pulled the trigger you cannot pull it again. The Ruger is also a single strike. You cannot restrike. The Kel-Tec is also a single strike. The M&P 380 BodyGuard BG 380 is multi-strike. You can pull the trigger over and over and over and over. And one last thing that you might be interested in is you can pull the trigger with the magazine removed. The Smith & Wesson BodyGuard 380 weighs in at 11.9 ounces with an empty magazine. The Car CW 380 weighs in at 11.5 ounces with an empty magazine. The Ruger LCP 380 weighs in at 10.4 ounces with an empty magazine and the Laser Max laser here. The Kel-Tec P3AT weighs in at 9 ounces even with an empty magazine. If you can afford just a couple of extra ounces, really not too much, you know, the same weight as a small set of keys, this might be the way to go. So to disassemble the bodyguard, first take the magazine out. Make sure you don't have any cartridges in the magazine. You don't want any ammunition when you're disassembling or cleaning the gun. Now we need to validate that the gun is empty by withdrawing the slide and looking in the chamber. Withdrawing it one more time and looking in the chamber again and validating that there is nothing there. Second, you want to withdraw the slide while pushing up on this, which is the slide stop, at the same time. And what it's going to do is it's going to lock into this little notch here. So pull back on the slide while pushing up and the gun locked open. Next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to push this lever down. So we're going to slide that down and we're going to slide it even farther. If you look down inside of there, you can see there's a tiny spring. And pull that out by the spring. What that spring does is that spring engages with this little notch here and it retains that lever. But as you can see, you need that pin out, so the lever is just getting you a little leverage to help it down there. So once you got the gun in this position, you want to hold onto the slide. I like to do it with my hand over the slide and my finger and my thumb pinching there. You want to depress that slide release and let the slide go forward, and it should slide all the way off the gun. So at this point you have your assembled barrel unit and slide with the recoil spring. You want to push forward on the recoil spring guide, and there's a little notch that retains the recoil spring guide. You want to push it forward and down, and make sure you don't just let that go or it'll fly off a little bit. These are dual recoil springs, so one spring is nested down inside of the other one. There's no need to separate those, just put a little oil on them and they're fine. The rod itself is stainless steel on my version. Now that we have the spring removed, the barrel can be removed. Just grab, push forward a little bit, tilt it down and pull it out. Now you see that the slide assembly is all on its lonesome. So I don't know what is inside of there. There's that fancy W. I don't know why there's a W there. I also don't know why those little golf ball divots are in there, but they're there. If anybody could tell me why, feel free to put a comment in the comment section down below. There is the firing pin safety, the drop safety, and you can also see that the extractor is down there, retained by a roll pin. The sights are drift adjustable, so that if you are off left and right, you can drift them left and right to compensate for that. And the firing pin is retained down inside of there. Your barrel is your standard Browning style action with a tilting barrel, and the lockup is on the front of the little barrel extension right there. Get you to look down the barrel so you can see the rifling. And you've got a very large and open feed ramp there. And we're onto the frame. We've got our safety. And it works as so. Very positive clicks, but it's a little difficult to get on and off. My recommendation, and the way I normally carry it, is I carry it with the safety off. You've got the slide release that the magazine, this portion of the magazine right here, pushes against, and it seems to work all right in this case. There's that little piece of spring there that retains the takedown lever and pin. The magazine release works conventional like a 1911 does, and you can see down inside of there that it is pushing a little nub out of the way. That nub engages on the side of the magazine. If you are left-handed, if you are so abled, just push it with your finger, you'll be good to go. They have this metal reinforcement insert in here. Now that appears to be stainless steel, and that is what the slide will come to a rest against at the end of its travel. I don't know if you could tell too well, but that's the slide stops positively against that steel. The metal that makes up the frame is actually steel, and to demonstrate, just regular carbon steel. A little stainless steel disconnector down here. The frame is held to the grip by roll pins here and here. So to reassemble, it gets a little tricky. Put our guide rod into our recoil springs, put our barrel in, and you just do the reverse. Put it in, push it forward, down, back, and then let it lock like that. Then there's that little hole there, and you want to push the recoil springs through the hole, and then there will be a ledge right here. Do you see that ledge? That you want the back of the spring assembly to be in that ledge. So again, push it forward and drop it down onto that ledge. And you see it's all rested in there. So now you have your slide assembly all assembled. Point the gun downward, and as you're sliding the slide onto the rails, you'll come up against a little bit of resistance, which will be that hammer there as it's going back a little bit. And then once you overcome that, the barrel will start sticking out the front. Sometimes, if you do it wrong, the barrel will ride back too far, and you will not be able to line everything up. You want the barrel to be as far forward as it can be. You see the difference? You want to lock the slide open when it's at the end of its travel, again pushing up with the thumb of your right hand and withdrawing the slide with your left hand. Even if you're left-handed, you got to do it this way. And it's all the way back, the barrel's all the way forward, you push up and then you let the slide go and it latches. So the barrel will move just a little bit, and if you can see down inside of there, there's a little slot that gets kind of obscured as you're pushing the barrel back a little bit. That's why the barrel's got to be all the way forward. Now, it's really important how you put this in here. There is a beveled edge on the bottom of the pin there. That beveled edge has to ride up over the top of that spring, so you want to insert the pin like this, pushing that spring down a little bit, and the pin will start to go in. You got to kind of wiggle the pin around until it looks like it's as far as it can go. So when you get the pin all the way in, you'll notice that it's sitting at a downward angle like this. Now, the trick is the pin has got to go through the other side of the frame, but it doesn't want to because this spring is pushing it up on this side. So you want to push down on the pin and wiggle it while you're pushing in. Does that make sense? And then you'll hear that little click. That little click was that spring going over that little notch that I showed you earlier. And then at that point it's semi-flush. It'll look kind of like that sticking out of there, and you're good to go. Hold the slide, grab the slide, or push the slide release down and let it go forward. If it stops, you should be good. So at this point your gun is assembled. Put the magazine back in it. Done. And at this point I will go ahead and insert some shooting, and we'll come right back and do a wrap-up. I've got 6 rounds in the magazine, 1 in the chamber. Shoot off 7 rounds, reload, shoot off 6 rounds. We'll see how it goes. Take the safety off. Another failure. Okay, it's empty. Mag change. Not the quickest thing in the world. It's a concealed carry gun. That went off, or that closed on its own. We'll go ahead and load up with some other ammo. That was steel-cased ammo, so we'll try a little brass-cased and see if that might help. So what we've got here is a couple of light primer strikes. I don't know if it's hard primers or what have you. This is, I believe, tool ammo, cheap steel case. It's a new gun. It's got to break in a little bit. We'll see. I'm going to go ahead and shoot some brass ammo, and we'll see how that works. Back with some brass ammo. We'll see if this works. This is the Winchester Train and Defend. This is the training ammo. So we'll see how this does. 6 rounds this time. It actually handles pretty nice. It doesn't handle, of course, like a full-size 9mm. It's kind of snappy on the recoil, but pretty good. I'm really digging this one. Okay, let it sit for a little bit and rack the slide. That's that steel ammo again. That was the stuff that was giving me problems, right? Yeah. Okay, rack the slide. There you go. Really long trigger pulley. Okay, rack the slide. Wait 10 seconds and rack the slide again. That's that steel ammo. What'd you think compared to your XD?
This thing sucks.
Shooting
it hurts.
Sucks.
It does. It hurts.
I'll try 7 rounds of rapid fire with my BodyGuard 380. And again, 1 in the chamber and then the full magazine, and I've got a little finger extension here. So 7 rounds of rapid fire. This is a brass cased ammo. Take it out and practice with it a little while. I was short stroking the trigger or something. I'll figure it out when I look at the video. So overall, I like the gun. It doesn't like the steel cased ammo. Feed it brass cased ammo and you should be fine. So to wrap things up, if you are looking for a good compact pistol to put in your pocket and to carry for concealed carry or carry around the house, around the shop, just something you could put in your pocket and not worry about it. Leave it there for however long you want, and it's always there with you. It's a gun you're not going to worry about leaving at home because you've got to install your belt holster or anything like that. It's easy. It's as easy to put in your pocket as a cell phone or a wallet or a set of keys, and yet it could save your life. If you're looking for something like that, you might want to look into the Smith & Wesson M&P BodyGuard 380, otherwise known as the BG 380. And once again, this is Ryan Ham. I'll see you at the range.